Well, shalom, folks. This is August Rosado with Today in Bible Prophecy Ministry. We want to thank you so much for tuning in on this Wednesday afternoon. We are coming to you live from our main headquarters here in Lincoln, Rhode Island, and it's great to have you with us. I'm so glad that you have decided to take time out of your busy schedule to join us Wednesday through Friday as we look at the geopolitical activities in the world, whether they're in Israel, somewhere in the Middle East, or around the world. And then I will give you a prophetic perspective on that Middle East geopolitical activity. Because we look at the political, as the political is setting the stage for the prophetic to be fulfilled. And here at Today in Bible Prophecy Ministries, folks, I always emphasize, and I'm repetitive when it comes to this, is that we never, ever engage in any type of hype, drama, sensationalism, or any type of tabloid prophecy. And when people engage in that stuff, it's an outright abuse of a doctrine that permeates at least 1/4 of the scriptures, at least 1/3 to at least 1/4 of the Bible. And it should be taken for its plain sense interpretation. The symbols should be interpreted by the Bible and the Bible alone, since the Bible is its best known interpreter. And so we just don't engage in any type of rhetoric at all when it comes to this type of tabloid prophecy. We look at the political because the political is indeed setting the stage for the prophetic to be fulfilled. And so I'm so grateful that we can come to you Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday and share with you a Bible prophecy update. You know, I'm just really humbled that our speaking schedule for the year 2021 has absolutely just mushroomed. I mean, it has swelled. And we just filled another date last night actually. On September the 26th, I'm going to be, for the very first time, I will be at First Baptist Church in Groton, Massachusetts. That church is pastored by Tom Falk. I just talked with him a little while ago. And Pastor Falk gave us the invitation to come and preach at 10:30 and 11:30. And so I'm looking forward to being with Pastor Tom Falk and all the people at First Baptist Church. That's First Baptist Church in Groton, Massachusetts. Now, that only leaves me only a few open dates left for this year, and that's it. I'm done. I believe that only leaves me September 5th and November 28th open. And I think those are the only two dates I have open for this calendar year of 2021. So I'm thrilled, I'm humbled, and I'm excited. We've been getting into a lot of first-time churches this year, and I love coming into first-time churches because I get to meet the pastor, the people of that church, and hopefully it's something, that would be consistent down the road. And so you can go to my website, todayinbibleprophecy.org, and you can look at my speaking schedule. And whatever open dates I have left, again, that's September 5th and November 28th. I think that's the day after Thanksgiving, November 28th. If you are interested and you want me to come to your church, then look at whatever open dates I have left. And if those dates work for you, then get a hold of us here Today in Bible Prophecy Ministries. We'd love to come. And if we don't have any more open dates for 2021, then, Lord willing, we can start working on a date to be with you in 2022. So look at our schedule, and we'd love to work something out with you. Now, our Bible Prophecy Tour to Israel is rescheduled for September 29th to October 9th, 2021, this fall. And right now, as it stands, we got about 27, 28 people coming with us. So they're pretty much hanging in there, and they're coming with us. I want you to join my wife and I on the Bible Prophecy Tour of a Lifetime, in which we'll tour Israel, and we'll go east over the Jordan River, and we will tour the Hashemite Kingdom of Jordan. While in Jordan, we'll be in North Jordan at Mount Nebo. That's Deuteronomy chapter 32 and verse number 49 and 50, where Moses viewed the promised land from Mount Nebo, and there at Mount Nebo, he died and was buried. And we're going to be in that same place where Moses viewed the promised land. Then we'll get in our tour bus. We'll drive south to Petra, where the Jewish remnant will be held up for the last half of the tribulation period. So you're going to get two countries for the price of one, Israel and Jordan. And I will teach you Bible prophecy in both locations. Now, the tour price is $3,498 per person. That's all inclusive. Israel and Jordan. Round trip airfare, hotels, buffet, breakfast and dinner, transportation, taxes, entrance fees. That's all included in that tour price. So if you want to come to Israel with us, now is the time to let me know, because before you know it, it's going to be here. I just got off the phone a little while ago with my tour agent, Eyal Evan, from Trips Israel LLC. And he said that Israel is going to make an announcement in a couple of weeks concerning the restarting of tourism back to Israel. How they're going to work that out, I don't know. Right now, from what I'm seeing, and it's not set in stone, I'm just throwing this out there, that they might at first allow only vaccinated foreigners into the country. Or vaccinated foreigners and those with a 72-hour negative COVID test. So that's how they might do it. I don't know. So stay tuned for more information as it comes along to us. But we believe Israel will have those borders open, and we will be back in Israel. As they say at the end of every Passover, Lashana Haba'ah Yerushalayim, next year in Jerusalem. Let me say a quick shalom to Greta Sims Emery. Amanda is with us, as well as Stephen Mitch Smith. Now, I know here on YouTube live streaming, not a whole lot of people come into the room like they would do on my Facebook page. Because as many of you know, Facebook still has me in a 30-day live stream ban for something they said I did in 2019. I just think, ladies and gentlemen, that was a, how can I say, it was a retaliation for something that I taught recently. So they were looking for any excuse to ban me for 30 days, because that's what Facebook does, because they're liberal. They're dictatorial. And they're a fascist social media network. That's who they are. And it was a post that was not in good taste, but I didn't put it there. Because if I did, there would have been a cry from a lot of my supporters and followers, and rightfully so. And so I just think that was Facebook's excuse to try to shut me up by banning me for 30 days. I do believe come either April 14th or April 15th, they're probably going to lift those restrictions. Because I remember they banned me. It was around March 14th, I believe. Either March 14th or March 15th. So, no big deal. Here we are live streaming on YouTube. There's always one way to skin a liberal cat. Great to see Becky DaCosta with us, Rivka. And Rebecca's going to be coming to Israel with us, Lord willing, this fall. And I was her pastor for a while. And I remember she said back, I think it was in 1999 when I was pastoring, when I first started pastoring. She said, I'm going to make it a point to go to Israel with you someday. And that someday, Becky DaCosta, is this year. Like I said, as they say at the end of every Passover, Lashana Haba'a Be'Yerushalayim. Next year in Jerusalem. Well, it's going to be this year. This year, Becky, in Jerusalem. And so, as I said, right now, with Becky signed up, we have about 27, 28 people so far coming on this trip with us. So I'm excited about that. Great to see Jennifer Tozier with us. Jennifer, good to have you with us in the room today. And I'm humbled that you have decided to join us for a Bible prophecy update. Like I said, last night I was just booked for September 26th, a few days, Rebecca, before we leave for Israel. I'm going to be preaching at First Baptist Church in Groton, Massachusetts. Like I said, I think I only have about 2 dates left for the year. And I'm booked for the year. In terms of speaking every Sunday for this year, 2021, I'm booked. I only have 2, maybe 3 speaking dates open, and that's it. The rest of the year is booked. Go to my website, todayinbibleprophecy.org, and click on my speaking schedule. And you can see that we are just book solid for the year. Book solid. And so if you're a pastor and you want me to come to your church to talk about Israel Bible prophecy and current events, then the only dates I have open would be September 5th, November 28th, and in Texas, I have a July 25th open while I'm there. Because I'll be in July, I'll be in Texas at Dr. Dave Reagan's conference. They want to interview me concerning my book, Daniel, A Chronology, my brand new book. And then after that, I'm going to be speaking at Shalom Congregation Friday evening for Dr. Todd Baker. Todd Baker and Zola Levitt founded that congregation back in the mid-'80s. And, of course, Zola passed on in 2006, and Todd Baker took that over. So Zola was Todd's mentor. Todd and I go to Israel 3 times a year, sharing the gospel with Jews and Arabs. Todd and I will be in Israel after my trip this year with my tour group. Todd and I will be in Israel on October the 18th. And so Zola Levitt Ministries picks up the tab for Todd and I while we're there in the Holy Land for 11 days, sharing the good news with the Jews. I can't wait to do that again, folks. I really can't. I so long to be back in Israel. I would have been there some 31 times until COVID knocked everything out last year. And so right now, my number is at 27, 27 times in Israel. And believe me, I'm grateful. But I want to be back in Israel. I want to be back in the Holy Land. I want to be back walking in the footsteps of Yeshua HaMashiach, Jesus the Messiah. So please pray that the borders are open. COVID cases are going down. I know I'm hearing them little flare-ups here and there, but all in all, cases are going down. Hospitalizations are going down. Even in Israel, they're going down dramatically. So I want you to come to Israel with us on September 29th. And let me know. Call me and let me know that you'd like to come to Israel. If you want to go with me, then call my tour agent, Eyal Evan, E-Y-A-L, Eyal Evan, E-V-A-N, at Trips Israel LLC. Call him toll free, 1-888-300-3038. That's 1-888-300-3038. This Sunday, I have been invited to speak at Center Conway Baptist Church in Center Conway, New Hampshire. All of the churches I'm speaking at in April are all in New Hampshire. Eric Ness is the pastor of that church. He has me come in every Easter. But of course, last Sunday, I was speaking at Cornerstone Baptist Church in Stratham, New Hampshire. I did a Passover Seder for the church Saturday night. Man, we had a great time. And then that Sunday morning, I preached for them. This Sunday, April 11th, I'll be at Center Conway Baptist Church. I'm looking forward to being with Eric Ness and all of our friends over there. They're right on the New Hampshire main line. So I'm looking forward to that. And then the next Sunday, I'm going to be at Twin Mountain Baptist Church in Twin Mountain, New Hampshire. I'll be preaching all day for them. So I'm looking forward to, and that's a first-time church for me. And again, I'm really blessed and humbled that now that COVID cases are dropping, my speaking schedule is back to where it was pre-COVID. So we're excited about that. Okay, so why don't we get started right now? And by the way, don't forget, you can order my new book, Daniel, a chronology, because we'll be talking about Daniel and Revelation today concerning two very dangerous countries, two very dangerous nations. But you can order my book, Daniel, a chronology. And I show you in this book how to read the book of Daniel in chronological order. And the book serves as a commentary, tackling the very controversial chapters like chapter 9, the 70th week of Daniel's prophecy. Chapter 11, the first 35 verses, which are history, but verses 36 through 45 are eschatological, future. And then two controversial verses in Daniel chapter 12, verses 11 and 12, concerning 30 days added to the 1,260 days of the last half of the tribulation period, and then another 45 days added to 1,290, making it 1,335. Why? I tell you why, or why I believe that is the case in this book. And so you can use it for your own personal study or Sunday school class. Go to my website, todayinbibleprophecy.org, scroll to the top of the page, click on the store, and you can order my book. And once I get your order, I will make sure that I autograph that book for you. Now, let's get into our study lesson. I want to talk about Israel alert, the China-Iran alliance from the east. Open your Bibles. I hope you have your Bibles open, okay? Go with me to Daniel chapter number 11, please. Daniel chapter number 11. And begin with me in verse 44, please. Daniel 11 and verse 44. And it says, but tidings out of the east and out of the north shall trouble him. That's a personal pronoun there. Him. Who's him? That's the Antichrist from the revived Roman Empire. Therefore, he shall go forth with great fury to destroy and utterly to make away many. And he shall plant the tabernacles, Sukkot in Hebrew, of his palace between the seas, plural, I'll get to that in a few moments, and the glorious holy mountain. I think you know what mountain that is. Yet he shall come to his end, and none shall help him. Now, the Jewish prophet Daniel prophesied of a threat upon Israel coming from the east, with a goal of annihilation of the Jewish people. These nations that have aligned themselves come from the east. Now, Daniel wrote in 605 BC, and I go through all that in this new book here, okay? Daniel wrote in 605 BC. We're talking now 605 years before the birth of Yeshua the Messiah, Jesus the Messiah. As he sees down through the corridor of time a military threat bringing great harm to the inhabitants of the Middle East. Now, Daniel wrote in the 6th century BC as a Jewish captive from Jerusalem and then taken to Babylon during Nebuchadnezzar's first wave of 3 Babylonian invasions of Jerusalem. In that first wave, in 605 BC, Daniel was taken along with his 3 Jewish friends, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. See, you better know Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah by their pagan, godless Babylonian names: Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. I personally don't like calling them by those names because those were not their original names. The Bible says their names are Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. I like to refer to them by their godly Hebrew names, not by their pagan Babylonian names given to them by a pagan king, Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon. In 597 BC, the second wave of Babylonian invasion, the Jewish prophet Ezekiel was taken along with 10,000 more Jewish captives to Babylon. And then the final and third wave was 586 BC. Nebuchadnezzar and the Babylonians destroyed Jerusalem, destroyed Solomon's temple, and took those remaining Jews back to Babylon for a period of 70 years. Daniel wrote these prophecies in the 6th century BC, and many of those prophecies were fulfilled between the 4th and the 2nd century BC. And there are many other prophecies that are yet to be fulfilled in the not too distant future. And that's the reason why liberal theological critics hate the book of Daniel, because Daniel was precise and accurate in these prophecies. They'll even go as far as to say that Daniel did not write the book of Daniel. Well, then you're calling Jesus a liar, because Jesus confirms Danielian authorship in Matthew chapter 24, verse 15, when he talks about the abomination of desolation. That happens at the midway point of the 70th week of Daniel's prophecy, the midway point of the future tribulation period. Jesus said, when you therefore shall see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet. Jesus is quoting out of Daniel chapter 9 and verse number 27. So Jesus confirms Danielian authorship. Daniel provides the framework for the future that Jesus describes as the times of the Gentiles. That's Luke chapter 21 and verse number 24, a phrase often misinterpreted in the church today. I remember when I was a young believer, I got saved in 1988, and as a young believer, I used to hear these guys say all the time, the times of the Gentiles will come to an end when that last Gentile gets saved and the church is taken out of here. Where do you find that in the Bible? Where do you find that in the New Testament? The times of the Gentiles began with the Babylonian captivity in 586 BC, and it will continue on through the church age that we're in right now. It continues after the rapture. It goes on through the tribulation period. I know that because when we get to Revelation chapter 11, where it talks about that rebuilt third Jewish temple, the tribulation temple, it says, but the court which is without the temple, leave out and measure it not, for it is given unto the Gentiles. The times of the Gentiles. The times of the Gentiles comes to an end at the second coming of Jesus, at the end of the 7-year period of tribulation, when he puts an end to Gentile world rule. Not before, ladies and gentlemen. Daniel shows world empires in chapters 2 and 7, the 70th week of prophecy in Daniel chapter 9, which, by the way, shows the timeline for the coming of the Mashiach, the timeline for the coming of the Messiah. When Todd Baker and I are in Israel sharing the gospel with Jews, we love using Daniel's timeline, showing when the Messiah came. And they don't know how to deal with that in Israel. It also shows his death and the final week to come, the 70th week, the future 7-year period of tribulation. Daniel chapter 11 shows the attack on Israel from enemy countries from the north, from the south, from the east, and from the west. Verses 1 through 35 of Daniel chapter 11 is already history, already fulfilled. But verses 36 through 45 are eschatological. They are still future. It deals with Israel's future and a future attack on Israel. The book of Revelation could not be understood apart from the book of Daniel. Again, talking about that in my new book here. Revelation chapters 4 through 19 are a commentary on the 70th week of Daniel chapter 9, especially verses Daniel chapter 9, verse 27. Daniel sees an attack on Israel coming from the north. Now that would be Russia and Turkey. Okay? That's Ezekiel chapter 38, verses 2 and 6. Talks about Magog. Who is Magog? Well, now that takes you back to Genesis chapter 10, verses 1 through 3. Magog was a son of Japheth. When he broke away from his brothers, he settled north of what is today the Caspian and Black Sea. Well, what country today is north of the Caspian and Black Sea? Well, Russia's there. Then in Ezekiel 38:2, it talks about Meshech, Tubal, and then verse 36, Gomer and Togarmah. Well, when I was in Istanbul, Turkey, at the airport, waiting for my flight over to Israel, I saw a replica of an ancient Turkish map. And guess what names I saw on that ancient Turkish map? Meshech, Tubal, Gomer, Togarmah. That makes up what is today the Islamic State of Turkey, with their radical president Tayyip Erdogan, who made it very clear, when it comes to Jerusalem, we must draw a red line. That's what he said. We Muslims must take Jerusalem. It's exactly what he said. And we also see this unholy alliance with Russia, with Turkey. Now, Meshech, Tubal, Gomer, Togarmah were the brothers of Magog. Those guys settled south of the Caspian and Black Sea. That's where Turkey is today. Okay? So from the south, an attack from the south would be Ethiopia and Libya. That's Ezekiel 38:5, and that's Daniel chapter 11 and verse number 44. And then two countries approaching from the east. I want to take a look at those two nations, those two countries, and the unholy alliance they just signed. One of those countries, a staunch enemy of the state of Israel, calling for the destruction of the Jewish state on a daily basis. We must wipe Israel off the face of the map. We'll just read Psalm 83, verse 4. They have said, come, and let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel be no more in remembrance. Psalm 83 records an Arab nations that attack Israel who share a common border with Israel. In Psalm 83, the Ezekiel 38 invasion, those countries don't share a common border with Israel. But the Arab countries in Psalm 83 that attack Israel, they do share a common border with the Jewish state. The other country is a communist country and an abuser of human rights, in which Christianity, biblical Christianity, is illegal, with a government-run state church. And in that country, the Bible is outlawed. You know who I'm talking about, folks. Both these godless nations were foretold in Bible prophecy as they attacked the Jewish state. Both Daniel in 605 BC and John the Apostle 500 years later in the book of Revelation between 85 to 96 AD foretold these unholy nations. And now we see an early formation of Daniel and John in Revelation concerning the alignment of the nations that will come against Israel in an attempt to wipe out the Jewish people coming into focus. They are coming into fruition. Now, a report that I read from the Jihad website, and on this website it said this, and I quote, China to deploy 5,000 troops in Iran and build a military base there, end quote. Now, on March 27th this year, China and Iran signed an economic and security cooperation agreement, according to which Beijing will invest, you ready? $400 billion. That's a B as in boy. $400 billion in Iran over the next 25 years. So the pact that both these countries signed, China and Iran, is a 25-year agreement. Now, according to the agreement signed between these two nations, 5,000 soldiers of the People's Liberation Army of China will be deployed in Iran, which is, by the way, being opposed by people in Iran. They don't want the Chinese over there. China has an opportunity to deploy 5,000 security and military officials in the Iran territory. It is a regional game changer, according to political economists. China is implementing a plan to increase its influence in the Middle East. Folks, Bible prophecy foretold this. By China and Iran signing this 25-year pact, and now undermines U.S. sanctions in Iran and pumps billions of dollars into the Iranian economy that has been crippled by U.S. sanctions. And now Iran is saying, we don't care what America or the Atomic Energy Agency says. We're free to go and continue our nuclear program. Now we got China behind us. They're giving us $400 billion. We don't care what America says anymore. We don't care what the European Union says anymore. We don't care what the world says. It sends an extremely dangerous message to America, but especially to Israel, that there is a new kid on the block, a new superpower on the block. Now Iran has two allies in its corner, Russia and China. They got these two very, very dangerous countries in their pocket. And folks, I'm telling you, this spells enormous danger for Israel. Now, Bible prophecy calls for Iran to attack Israel along with Russia, along with Turkey, along with Ethiopia, Sudan, Somalia, along with Libya, and Ezekiel chapter 38. But in Ezekiel chapter 38, verse 5, it describes Persia joining the attack. Well, we all know that in 1936, Persia changed their name to Iran. What does the word Iran mean? It simply means land of the Aryans, due to the influence of Nazi officials who visited the country back in the day. Well, we all have the same goal in mind. It's the destruction of the Jews. Iran is east of the state of Israel. Now, in Revelation 16, verse 12, it says, and the Euphrates River was dried up, that the way of the kings of the east might be prepared. Now, who is the kings of the east? China. China is in the far east of the state of Israel. Iran is east of the state of Israel. China, far east of the state of Israel. Mind you, the Euphrates River, that's Genesis 15:13. The Euphrates River is a natural boundary between the Middle East and the Far East. It is a natural boundary of the promised land given to Israel. So that river will one day be dried up, and the kings of the east, the Far East, will come over that dried up Euphrates River, which, by the way, that river extends from the Persian Gulf all the way up north through Syria and Turkey. Now, there's been issues between Turkey and Iraq. Iraq is complaining that Turkey is hogging all the water from the Euphrates, because Turkey says that with a push of a button, we can dam up the Euphrates River. And yet, Bible prophecy calls for the Euphrates River to be dried up so that the kings of the east come over that Euphrates River, bringing death and destruction to the world, at least 1/3 of the world's population, according to Revelation 9:15. China is in the far east of the state of Israel. In Revelation 9:16, it speaks of a 200 million man army coming into the Middle East, bringing death to 1/3 of humanity. Some say, well, that's got to be demons. I believe they are men possessed by demons. Now, in Daniel 11:44, the beast from the revived Roman Empire, the Antichrist, he hears tidings, he hears news of a coming invasion from the east and from the north. Iran comes from the east, China from the far east. Russia comes from the north. As I said, they're north of the Caspian and Black Seas. Turkey comes from the north. They're south of the Caspian and Black Seas. If you back up, Daniel chapter 11, verse 40 talks about an attack on Egypt from the king of the south and the king of the north. The king of the south would be Egypt. The king of the north would be Syria. Israel is sandwiched between those two countries. When I take my tour groups to the Golan Heights, we're almost right there on the border with Syria. You can see Syria right there. And so those two countries will attack Israel. They're going to be destroyed. In Daniel 11:41, the surviving Jewish remnant is held up at Petra. That's in South Jordan. That's where I take my tour groups. Which is why it says in Daniel 11:41, but these shall escape out of his hands, even Edom, Moab, and the chief of the children of Ammon. Edom, Moab, Ammon makes up what is today the Hashemite kingdom of Jordan. Ammon settled in North Jordan. Moab, or in Hebrew, Moab, with a V on the end, settled in Central Jordan. Esau and the Edomites, they settled in South Jordan. Ammon and Moab were the sons of Lot through an incestuous relationship with his daughters in Genesis 19, 37 and 38, shortly after God destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah. Edom, well, they come from Esau, Jacob's brother, the Edomites. Esau was the father of the Edomites. How do I know that? Genesis chapter 36, verses 1, 8, and 9. Esau is the father of the Edomites. So Jordan is spared destruction because God is sheltering the Jewish people there during the last half of the 70th week, the last half of the tribulation period. Go on my website, todayinbibleprophecy.org, scroll down till you get to our videos, click on a video of me teaching my tour group at Petra. You can see that 5-story high treasury in the background. Now, in Daniel 11, 42 and 43, Egypt is destroyed and plundered by the Antichrist. In that same verse, verse 43, Libya and Ethiopia attack. So now they're destroyed. Now, Libya, Ethiopia, that's out of Ezekiel 38, verse 5, ladies and gentlemen. So obviously we see a parallel here. But then, in Daniel 11:44, an attack from the east, that would be China, the Far East, Iran in the Middle East, and China in the Far East, and an attack from the north. That would be Russia and Turkey. Persia, Iran, Ezekiel 38:5. China, Revelation 16 and verse number 12. And then, of course, we see the Ezekiel scenario all over this here. Attacking from the north will be Russia and Turkey, Ezekiel 38, 2 and 6. Iran, Ezekiel 38:5. China, Daniel 11:44, and Revelation 9:16, and Daniel chapter 11 and verse number 44. Antichrist destroys these nations and he annihilates them. He annihilates them, folks. Why? Because of the confirmation peace treaty with Israel in Daniel 9:27. When the dust settles and the smoke clears, Daniel 11:45 tells us the Antichrist will set up his headquarters between the seas, plural, S-E-A-S, seas, and the glorious holy mountain. He plants his headquarters between the seas. What seas? Sea of Galilee to the north, Mediterranean Sea to the west, Dead Sea to the east, Red Sea to the south. And he plants his headquarters between those seas in that glorious holy mountain. What mountain? Jerusalem. he moves his base of operations from Rome to Jerusalem. Go to my YouTube page. See Dr. Todd Baker and I teaching at Rome in 2015 when it talks about the Antichrist in cooperation with the false church that sits on a Seven Hill City. He moves his base of operations from Rome to Jerusalem. Why? This will ensure no future attacks on Israel until the Antichrist breaks his confirmation peace treaty that he made with Israel in Daniel chapter 9 and verse 27, at the midway point of the tribulation period, when he himself attacks Israel. But yet we read in Daniel 11:45, the beast will come to his end, yet he shall come to his end, and none will be able to help him. He comes to his end at the hands of Jesus the Messiah at his second coming, at tribulation's end. And no army in the world is going to help the Antichrist. Parallel to that is Daniel chapter 7, verse 11, where it says, the beast was slain and his body destroyed and given to the burning flame. That's parallel with Revelation 19, verses 19 and 20. And the beast was taken, and with him the false prophet that wrought miracles before him, in which they had deceived the world, that had received the mark of the beast, and them that worshipped his image. These both were cast into a lake of fire, burning with brimstone. Daniel chapter 7, verse 11, Revelation 19:20, parallel. It records Antichrist's demise at the hands of Jesus the Messiah. And that happens when the beast and the false prophet cast into the lake of fire. Listen, folks, parallel passages are important to our study of prophecy. We call this inductive Bible study. That just simply means, folks, you just compare scripture with scripture. The Bible is its best own interpreter, and we need to leave it that way. Jesus will establish his kingdom from Jerusalem for 1,000 years during the Davidic, theocratic, millennial kingdom reign of Jesus the Messiah, centered at Jerusalem, not Rome. So in closing, with the news of China and Iran signing this 25-year pact, and China sending 5,000 troops to Iran, folks, this is setting the stage for Bible prophecy to be fulfilled. A strong indicator. The rapture of the church must be closer than we can imagine. And that's the reason why we must keep looking up, because our redemption draweth nigh. So, Jennifer says, will the COVID vaccination be required for the trip to Israel? It's a possibility. Jennifer, it's a possibility. They're going to make an announcement, according to my tour agent, EL11, in a couple of weeks, concerning the requirements to get into Israel. And I know this is going to be an issue with a lot of Christians. You know, we all want the COVID to go away, but no one wants to take the necessary steps to do so. My wife and I got our first shot a couple of weeks ago. And we're waiting for our second shot on April 22nd. Don't quote me on this, Jennifer, okay? But I'm thinking right now, Israel's saying that if you want to get into the country, you must show proof of vaccination. Or they could say proof of vaccination or a 72-hour negative test. So I don't know how they're going to play it right now. I do know that right now in Greece, they're only allowing vaccinated foreign tourists into their country at 10,000 a week. That might increase as we get deeper into the year. So that's what I'm looking at right now, Jennifer. but don't quote me on anything. But right now it looks like Israel is only going to let vaccinated foreigners into the country. That could also change as well, so we don't know. We'll see. Becky said, oh man, it's getting good, and I have to go back to work. Totally understand that. Listen, I hope that you join us tomorrow, 1:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for another Bible prophecy update. Don't forget, you can order my brand new book, Daniel, A Chronology, in which I show you how to read the book of Daniel, how to read it in chronological order. So I hope that you get a copy of this book. We'll autograph it for you. Go to my website, todayinbibleprophecy.org. Click on the link for you to order the book. If you want to come with me to Israel and Jordan, September 29th to October 9th, now's the time to let me know. And folks, if our ministry has been a blessing to you, please prayerfully consider helping to support our ministry. Because you know that with me, you only get Bible prophecy and its plain sense interpretation. That's it. No hype, no drama, no prophecy tabloid nonsense. Just a plain sense interpretation of Scripture. That's it. So if our ministry has been a blessing to you, please prayerfully consider helping us. You can click on the donate link at the bottom of my webpage, todayinbibleprophecy.org, and click on that link. And you can give us a one-time gift, a monthly gift, no gift too big or too small, to help us to travel around the United States, preaching and teaching Jesus' soon return, and going halfway across the world to Israel to share the gospel with Jews and Arabs. We put our money where our mouth is. So if you can help us out with that, that would be greatly appreciated. You can also mail any support to Today in Bible Prophecy Ministries, 143 Grove Street. That's 143 Grove, Grove, 143 Grove Street, Lincoln, Rhode Island, 02865. And if you would like me to come to your church for whatever openings I have this year, we only got a couple of openings. That's it. I think September 5th, November 28th. That's it. We only have that open. If you want me to come to your church, then let us know. We would love to come and teach and preach Bible prophecy for its plain sense interpretation, looking at the political, setting the stage for the prophetic to be fulfilled. Well, I hope to see you all tomorrow. Invite a friend to tune in. And don't forget, keep looking up. Jesus is coming soon. And Sha'alu Shalom Yerushalayim. Pray for the peace of Jerusalem. And we will talk to you tomorrow, 1:30 p.m. God bless, folks. We'll talk to you soon. Bye.